actually, you also answered my other questions. My next question is, some people...
So if this planned change will be adopted and implemented, I'm afraid that what will happen first, it will be a complete block of...
Would you please introduce yourself and the role of OECD Working Group on Bribery for Korean audience?
Yeah, the Working Group on Bribery of the OECD is monitoring the enforcement of the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention. And Korea is part of our group for many years already. And Korea is a very respected member of our group. What we do is we monitor how countries are implementing the OECD Convention. We issue reports, let's say in relation to Korea, we issued the last report in 2018. And there will be a follow-up coming soon in this year. So then, following our assessment of the country's implementation, we issue recommendations and we follow up on recommendations. So we want to see recommendations being implemented. I have the privilege to chair this group from 2014 already. My name is Drago Kos. I'm otherwise coming from Slovenia. And basically for the last 8 years, I was engaged as the chair of this working group.
Are you constantly monitoring the situation in member country of the convention?
Yes, even in periods where we do not exactly produce the report on our countries, we monitor what is going on in our member countries through the media, through our contacts in the governments, through our contacts in the civil society. So we know pretty well what is going on in our member states all the time.
Are you aware of the current Korean situation, which is the majority party's attempt to reform criminal procedure laws to eliminate the role of prosecutors in criminal investigation?
Yes, I know what is going on. I have to say I was quite surprised when I learned about it, because I thought that, let's say, we will not see such developments in countries like Korea, which had steadily, let's say, improving the situation without any big shocks or big changes, simply, let's say, enhancing the efforts to fight corruption.
What is your view on this attempt, and what do you think the most problematic?
The most problematic part is that what is planned to be done is the clear separation between the role of prosecutors and investigation. Now, in the rest of the world, prosecutors have a decisive role in all anti-corruption investigations, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are submitting the indictments to the courts. They are the ones who are defending, or let's say, representing the state against the suspects at the court. So I simply do not understand how prosecutors could be eliminated from the stage of investigation, because they're the ones who have to make decisions what to do, because they know what they will need for the indictment and for the trial.
So, in your opinion, how this attempt impacts on the anti-corruption capabilities of Korean law enforcement agencies?
Well, already in our report 2018, we mentioned that there's a small gap between the, let's say, activities of the prosecutors and of the police in fighting corruption. So if this planned change will be adopted and implemented, I'm afraid that what will happen first, it will be a complete block of anti-corruption investigations and prosecutions, because there'll be a brand new situation. And as far as I know, there is also no new institution in place yet to take over the role of investigation. So the first, what will happen, it will be complete block. And the second, in the long term, I think this will seriously hamper the ability of Korea to fight corruption.
But people who try to make these new laws says that they will propose additional bills to create the new national criminal investigation agencies, which will replace prosecutors' criminal investigative law in 3 months. So they claim that anti-corruption capabilities will not be reduced. Do you agree with this assertion?
You see, this is not how you do it. You don't strip the prosecutors of their investigative powers and then start to think what to do next, which agency would have to have those powers. I think what Korea would need to do now is to slow down or even stop the process, to make a very thorough analysis what this will mean for Korea. I don't have anything against, let's say, changes, if changes are changes for the better. But the way how it is done now, I'm afraid this will not be the case, that Korea will let's say, mainly face the negative consequences of this hasty decision.
Are you familiar with the term I caught the split between criminal investigation and criminal prosecution?
What is going on in the world is exactly the opposite. The links between the investigation and prosecution are becoming tighter, closer, simply because of the fact that because the prosecutors are the ones who will have to deal with the results of the investigations. So the prosecutors are the ones who in most countries I know in the world are deciding what will be done in the course of investigation, how it will be done, because they know what they need for successful indictment.
So, do you think this split between criminal investigation and criminal prosecution, is it global standard or OECD standard? Do you think, how about that?
No, this is going exactly against the standards we have. The standard in the world, and standard also in the working group of bribery, is that the prosecutors are the decisive element of investigation and prosecution. So they are the ones deciding what to do. So the world is going into the opposite direction from the one the Korea is taking out now. Physically, prosecutors, of course, they don't do the arrest, they don't listen to the house searches, but they are the ones deciding on what will be done. So prosecutors are the masters of the pre-trial process, or as we call it some parts of the world, of the pre-trial investigations. They are the masters of the procedure, not the police. What is going on right now is we have consultations in the management group of the working group for bribery, that is the steering body of the group, how to proceed with Korea. So my proposal to the management group was that we ask Korea for official information and explanation. And based on that explanation, we will do the assessment. What does that mean for Korean, let's say, implementation of the Anti-Bribery Convention? And if the assessment will be that this is harming the Korea capabilities to implement the convention, then of course, the working group will have to resort to measures which we have at our disposal to make countries compliant with our recommendations and our convention. I think the regular evaluation was planned for June, but even if this is not the case, we will discuss Korea in June for sure. So that means in 2 months' time, or even 1 month and a half, we will discuss the changes which are planned to be made in Korea.
Are you going to ask about this possible change in law to Korean government and to Korean Congress, or just to get information?
No, we will ask the government, but we will not wait until June. Until then, we will ask the government, I guess, next week already, maybe even this week. Because we really want to know what is going on. We would like to understand what is going on, and most of all, we would like the government to think about possible consequences of their planned action.
Okay, so if you find some problem on Korea's lawmaking attempts, what kind of thing you can do or your group can do to Korea?
If the group will be of the opinion that those changes are damaging the Korean capability to fight foreign bribery or corruption, then of course we will ask Korea to return back to the previous system, or to do something else to restore the system which was functioning for 70 years already. There are problems, but there are problems in all countries. But my policy is very simple: if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And I don't see that Korean system of prosecutions would be broken, that it would have to be fixed in the way as it's happening now.
But some people in Korea think that Korean prosecutors are too politicized. Are you feeling some problematic about this politicized prosecutors in Korea?
Well, I read the reports on Korea carefully. I never got such an, let's say, feeling that the group would think that Korean prosecutors are politicized. But even if that would be the case, the planned changes will not solve the problem. Because even if it's the police doing the investigation, it is still the prosecutors deciding what will happen next. And the prosecutors will be deciding what will go to the court. So the planned changes, if this is a problem, the planned changes will not solve the problem. In European countries, that would not be possible.
So, are you cooperating with prosecutors when you are in police?
Absolutely, there's no other way. You can't do the police part of the investigation without close cooperation with the prosecutors. They're the masters of the process.
As an international expert on criminal justice system, have you ever seen similar change in other countries? I mean, complete exclusion of prosecutors from criminal investigation.
Never.
Never. Yeah. Do you have anything want to say to Korean audience and Korean politicians?
Yes, I would back the Korean government to slow down, to organize a careful and thorough analysis of the possible consequences of the changes they're planning, and move only when they will be completely assured that the changes they're planning to do will not harm the system which is in place now. You can't do the changes which are planned in such a quick manner